Slowly but ceaselessly, they drag themselves forward, arms outstretched, skin rotten, milky and unseeing, their eyes search for the living, hungry. There is no thought, no decision, no pain, only the unrelenting drive to consume. My name's Hazel Gale. I'm a therapist turned author and co-creator of the Betwixt app, and this video is for anyone who ever wonders why they feel dull inside, as if something is missing, as if something has perished. Zombies are as undying in our culture as they are in their stories. From Night of the Living Dead in 1963, to World War Z, Shaun of the Dead, brilliant, Zombieland, also brilliant, The Walking Dead and The Last of Us, we just can't get rid of these creatures. Perhaps the reason for the zombies' resilience in modern story is the deeper warning this monster conveys, a message that makes immediate visceral sense, that it is not death that we should fear most, but living without life, advancing without thought or autonomy, consuming without connection. The zombie legend has ancient roots. In medieval folklore, a revenant was a spirit or soulless animated corpse revived from death to haunt the living. A little more recently, the Haitian religion of voodoo, often misrepresented in pop culture, gives us the word zombie. In voodoo, a zombie is a person revived after burial, compelled to work, and stripped of autonomy. By the 19th century and the Industrial Revolution, the monster of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, not a zombie technically but with strong zombie vibes, added a new twist. Stitched from dead flesh, this story asked what happens when humans manufacture life, something human-shaped but not human. Philosophers have actually been discussing this for some time. The philosophical zombie is a popular thought experiment in discussions of human consciousness. It goes like this. Imagine a world full of people who look, talk and behave exactly like you and me, but with no inner life at all. They smile, they nod, they say I love you, but there's no one in there. The philosophical zombie was once confined to the classroom. Right now though, in the age of artificial intelligence, it really doesn't feel that abstract. And zombie stories tap right into the same basic theme it explores. A fear that the people around us are unreachable, that they are shells, that no matter how close you get physically, you'll never really be able to connect because they're void of self or soul. And worse, that the same could happen to us. That's the true horror of the zombie's bite. With vampires and werewolves, a bite is a curse and a gift. You gain powers, awareness, even beauty. But when a zombie bites you, it doesn't give anything back. The thing characters always beg for in those films, don't let me turn, kill me first, isn't about the fear of dying, it's about the bigger fear of continuing to exist without the spark of consciousness, about becoming whatever it is that we will be when our sense of self, soul or mind is removed. Ultimately, we've always been obsessed with these questions. What makes a person? What happens when the light goes out? And now, what responsibility do we have if one day by science or accident we create a whole new kind of being, one that walks and talks like us, but may or may not be awake? Coming back to the history of zombie stories, it was only in much more modern times that the flesh-eating or brain-eating zombies became a thing, which was an augmentation of the zombie/revenant concept with that of the flesh-eating ghoul from Arabian mythology. In 1963, George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead was the first zombie story to show the undead monsters feasting on human remains, thus launching into the collective consciousness the pervasive image of society devouring itself. It's surely no coincidence that zombies as mindless consumers entered the world just as the golden age of capitalism was gaining speed in the West, and in the US in particular. Once again, the stories we tell hold up a shadow mirror for the world to look into. So, whether ancient revenants or voodoo zombies, whether brain-eating or mechanically resurrected, across cultures and eras, the core theme of the zombie's archetypal story remains the same. This monster is a body without soul, a life without essence. Psychologically, the zombie is the perfect metaphor for what happens when we dissociate, when we become disconnected from ourselves, from each other, or from life itself. This monster personifies soul death before physical death, the death of spirit. Now at this point I need to state very clearly that I am not calling people with dissociative disorders zombies. I'm also not suggesting that a little self-reflection can quote-unquote cure a disorder of this type. This video is also not meant to shame or discourage our non-pathological moments of numbness either, because, and this is important, numbness is needed sometimes. Dissociation is a natural and adaptive function of the brain. It helps us to cope when our emotions would otherwise overwhelm. What this archetypal monster warns us about is avoidable, extended, chronic disconnection. Disconnection as a way of life, not the occasional healthy ins and outs of consciousness and presence. In essence, the zombie carries a timeless warning about straying too far from our authentic selves, something many of us do on a near daily basis. Whenever we disconnect from our instincts, our dreams, our passions, our values, whenever we start doom scrolling, overworking, binge watching, or chasing compulsive achievement, whenever we allow ourselves to be productive but not present. That zombie shuffles ever closer each time we let a day pass without difference, feeling, meaning, or awake, authentic decision. Modern zombies crave brains, after all. They want their consciousness back. We can see this monster in patterns of people-pleasing, consumption as a coping mechanism, living for the weekend or working our way into burnout, and of striving for goals that don't matter to us because we think that's what we ought to be doing. The good news is that the zombie isn't just a warning, it's also a call to action. Beneath its hollow groaning, there's a quieter, clearer message that a life without meaning, connection, and feeling is a kind of slow death, that consumption can never replace creation, and that mere survival is not enough. Perhaps more than any other monster in this series, the zombie is clearly asking us for something. What if it isn't stumbling towards us to consume us, but reaching out, desperate to get back in? Into the body, into feeling, into a present, living experience of life. If the zombie is the archetype of soul death, then its antidote isn't to escape or battle, it's to live. To return to embodiment, to desire, to meaning, to whatever it is that makes you feel alive. So let's turn this monster into a tool for self-reflection. I invite you to ask yourself gently and with curiosity, where in my life have I gone numb? The question posed by the philosophical zombie is by nature unanswerable. We can study the brain and we may someday know more about what consciousness really is and where it comes from, but we will never experience for ourselves what goes on in the minds of others. What we do know, though, is that when we allow our own spark to dim, or our authentic self to fade away, we diminish the possibility of true connection. If we drift too far from ourselves, then we might as well be living in a world full of zombies. In addition, this zombie motif taps into our fear of becoming indistinguishable from everyone else, just another groaning horde member following the crowd. So whenever the zombie moans its lifeless warning, there is a vital opportunity available to each of us to find a way back, slowly, bit by bit, feeling by feeling, to reanimate our true selves and our lives. You could start by simply moving your body as if trying to wake it from sleep. A stretch, a short walk without headphones, or dancing alone in your kitchen. These things are simple acts of rebellion against inertia. Seek out small pleasures and actually taste them, feel them. A sip of tea, the smell of the woods, the comfort of your favourite jumper. Presence begins with noticing. It's as simple as that. Choose to create sometimes instead of consume. It doesn't have to be art in the grand sense. Cook a meal, write a sentence, grow something. Make a tiny mark on the world that wasn't there before. Importantly, take your chances to connect, even if only briefly. Look up and meet someone's eyes across a shop counter or in the street, or send a message that lets a friend know that you're thinking of them. And do the same for yourself too, whether through self-talk, journaling, breathing, or just placing a hand over your heart. Zombies are lonely because they're cut off. So is the part of you and me that feels numb. Lastly, allow yourself to feel one thing without judging it. Sometimes what melts numbness is not joy, but allowing the grief or frustration that's frozen underneath it to be heard. You don't have to do all of these things, of course. You don't have to do any of them. You can also invent your own. Whatever you do, just remember the point is not to fix the numbness, but to turn towards life again, a fraction at a time. Because this, I think, is the invisible gift the zombie clasps in those reaching fingers. An invitation to return to ourselves and to the wild, messy aliveness that makes being human worth the trouble.